his channel, YouTube channel, Spirituality, Non-Duality. Non-duality means my inner self or my essence and what we call God is one and the same consciousness. There is no duality to consciousness, my consciousness and God consciousness. God consciousness is the consciousness that expresses itself through me and through all beings. The consciousness in me is the consciousness of all, one consciousness. This is oneness, non-duality. And also there is also no other consciousness beside this absolute consciousness. To say it in other words, there are not two gods. One, without a second, oneness. In our center there is oneness. In our mind exists plurality, chaos. So the whole process of inner life, spirituality, yoga, self-knowledge is to return to our original home, silent space of consciousness. And this is something we have to do moment by moment. It's not something to do it for 5 to 10, 1 hour, 30 minutes practice. We need these sessions of practice in favorable conditions, isolated by the external stimulus in a silent, relatively, at least silent space in our home, better in nature, to meditate and to restore, to re-establish a conscious connection with this inner silent space of consciousness. Because this consciousness is always here and now and appears to be as the background of our experiences. Why happens this? Because our emotional, mental expressions are very strong, and our mind is habitually have learned and habitually resides on these mental emotional reactions. It's a very strong habit to express strongly emotions, impulses, desires. I mean, desire not for something very big thing, small things of everyday life, and to focus on them. So our mind and attention are extroverted. You can say, but emotions are inside. Yes, in relation to the inner silence, it is in an external space. Of course, the more external space is the sensory experiences. So because of the conditioning, our mind and attention runs towards sensory experiences and the reactions towards these experiences. So we can say they prevail in our system. Emotions, desires, impulses, thoughts, imagination prevails in our experience, and this inner silent space of consciousness appears to be somewhere in the background. So when by practice we develop this capacity to maintain our attention inwards, and little by little maintain this connection and becomes more profound, clear, deep, then the expressions of the egoic self at all levels, mostly emotional, mental levels, becomes weaker. And our mind because of purity and clarity, does not give so much importance to these automatic mental emotional reactions created by the element we call egoic self. Because the mind can exist without the egoic self. Although ego is part of the mind, and all egoic tendencies, emotions, feelings are part of the mind, they are not all of them intimate elements of the mind. They have been developed somehow, and that's why we can get rid of them. That means to eradicate them from our mind at all levels: emotional level, mental level, subconscious level, intellect. We can get rid of them because it's not something original, something innate in our system. And all these tendencies, programming, conditioning, pulls our attention from the inner silence towards sensory experiences and to experience some kind of emotion or energetic reaction. Pleasantness, pleasure, joy, happiness, of any kind, satisfaction. So we live our life through this basic, fundamental inner function. So we have the inner silence, and we have the mind that is conditioned, and our life in reality is out from the egoic self, which wants experience sensory experiences, and through sensory experience, some energetic, emotional, mental experience. So when we start to do what we call spiritual practice or inner non-dual practice, yoga, whatever you like to say, we want to make in reality, to do in reality exactly the opposite. There is an extroverted tendency of the mind and attention, and we want to return this mind and attention inwards, in the center of our existence. But because of conditioning and habit, the mind tends to go outwards. And this is the battle we have to make. This is the battle between the habitual, instinctive, emotional, lower mind and the higher, sattvic mind, that is the mind of clarity, of discrimination, of devotion, of harmony, etc. This higher aspect of mind, which is called sattva in Sanskrit, wants superior luminous experiences, and the higher, we would say, experience, although it's not an experience, is the experience of God consciousness, to experience what we really are, which is not a dual experience. It is not that me, the separate self, experience the bliss or plenitude of God consciousness. In fact, God consciousness experience itself through this body, mind, me, entity, person. So the whole process, it appears to be a process of an individual self, a separate self, which results to the realization that there is no separate self, there is one consciousness that experiences itself through this body, mind, me entity and all other beings. And again, because of conditioning, our mind runs outwards. And of course, our attention runs outwards. Wherever our attention is, we have experience. Because attention in reality is consciousness itself, to say functioning, but it's not correct because it doesn't function, but there is no other way to say. Consciousness, when it expresses itself through the mind, it is what we call attention. So there is no experience without attention, that means without consciousness or awareness. So to experience this inner plenitude and peace, our mind and attention, which is the reflected consciousness onto the mind, must go to their origin, which is the pure consciousness. And because of the conditioning, we have this battle. The lower ego and mind wants to go outwards, and the higher mind that guided by our divine essence wants to go inwards. And this is the main, the main part of the inner work and the inner journey. One part wants to go outwards, and the other part wants to go inwards. So we must train our mind. We must acquire knowledge and train our mind and heart and body and energy, so that little by little this capacity to disengage of the lower mind in the form of thoughts, emotions, desires, impulses, to become weaker and weaker, and the capacity of conscious will and discernment, etc., to become stronger, to become our mind more clear, more focused, concentrated, more steady, steadiness, clarity, discernment, devotion for truth. What is truth? This inner silent space of consciousness. And in this process, we must develop this capacity that I call double attention or double awareness. Okay, when we do seated meditation, when we sit for meditation, our whole intention, interest is to go as deep as possible in the inner silence. And withdraw our attention from any external input, sounds most of all, or physical sensations, and to withdraw our attention from energetic, emotional, mental, subtle reactions, and focus the silence, the attention in the inner silence. We are not interested to experience anything else than the silence. This is sitting or seated meditation. But most of the time, we are not in this position for meditation. We do our daily works, activities. We eat, take bath, walk, for shopping, for whatever. We need then to develop this capacity, which I call double attention or double awareness. That means part of our attention remains connected with the inner silence. It is anchored in the inner silence and the sense I am also. The sense I am, I repeat, it is the reflection of the inner silence on the onto the sattvic part of the mind. It's like the sun. The sun is on the sky, and it can be reflected on a lake or a mirror. We can see the reflection in the mirror. This reflection is, in the case of human being, this sense I am and presence. Inner silence is not presence. We may confuse inner silence with presence. They are two different things. Presence is the light of reflected consciousness, which enables us to have psychological and sensory experiences. Inner silence is beyond any experience, we could say unrelated to anything. So, pure consciousness, absolute consciousness, you can give it any name, doesn't change the reality, is beyond everything, beyond the experiences as well. The reflection of this consciousness, which is experienced in us as the sense I exist, you feel it now, you exist, I exist, I'm present. This presence enables us to have conscious experiences. sensory experiences, psychological experiences. The objective is for us, for anyone that wants to live a rich inner life, what we call spiritual life, by the way, which in reality doesn't mean anything special, because, okay, we call spirit this consciousness. That's why spirituality. But in fact, experientially, we do not experience spirituality. What we experience is this silence, this inner silence, this silent space, we could say, which in reality is not a space, but is experienced as a space, empty space, which is also peaceful and full and whole, lacks nothing, this inner silence. So this is what we experience, not spirit. Okay, we can call it spirit or God or Brahman, but in reality, as a direct experience, we experience fullness. This fullness, this peacefulness is what we call God or spirit. So, because we cannot do meditation all the time, we must develop the capacity to maintain part of our attention always connected with this inner silence and experience consciously this inner silence. And at the same time, to be aware of what is happening in our system, mind, heart, and what is happening in the sensory world. But the point is, these three elements exist in every moment. The sensory experiences, sound experiences, sight experiences, taste experiences, exist here and now. Psychological experiences exist here and now. Of course, they change. Thoughts change. Emotions say, I'm happy, I'm angry, I'm in a state of dislike, of discomfort, or comfort. But some emotional state or tendency and some kind of thought or imagination or whatever occurs in our mind and heart. And always, in every experience, there is also this silent space of consciousness. These three elements: external life, psychological life, inner silence. Concerning the inner silence, psychological world is external. Psychological world is internal in relation to the external world. But in relation to the inner silence, even psychological world is external. So these three elements, and we must, if we want to live consciously and in more full, a life of fullness and plenitude and freedom. If you don't want, you can live as we like. So we must become skillful to maintain this consciousness of the inner silence, and through it to experience our emotional, mental states and the outer world. Giving, this is important, giving more importance to the connection with the inner silence than the psychological elements and the sensory elements. This is very important. Of course, if we have a very specific work to do and it needs a lot of attention, we have to give more attention to this activity. But even in this case, we must maintain this subtle connection with the inner silence, double attention, double awareness. For example, one of my main practices was reading and reflecting on spiritual ideas, reading books like books of famous book, Bhagavad Gita, and books of Adi Shankaracharya like Vivekachudamani, for example, Books like I Am That of Nisargadatta, books like Ramana Maharshi, there is a great variety of books. Books of Sivananda as well, and Astavakra Gita, many different kind of books anyway, Ribu Gita. So I was using reading as a means to maintain connection with the inner silence, because I could not stay for a long time in a position like a statue. I had, and I still have problems with my back pains, with the knees pains, a lot of pain. So I have to adapt my practice to my needs, to the needs of the body more precisely. So I could use various activities as a means for meditation. So I was reading, and reading wants attention. But my main purpose, my intention, it was mostly to maintain this connection with inner silence. And sometimes, of course, I was more on the reading. It's a dynamic process. It's not something I do and I do everything perfect, nothing happens. No, it's just a fantasy. Doesn't exist this. Don't listen, you will do this and you will find this. This is just imagination. There are techniques, methods, means, but we have to use them skillfully and learn from them and develop our capacity to do what we want to develop through this means or method. It's something dynamic. We have good moments, bad moments, medium moments to say. It's dynamic. But if we persist in practicing any kind of practice, little by little, we become more and more skillful. This is certain because it's my experience. So I was reading, and my main purpose was not only to learn, but to connect constantly with inner silence. And frequently, I purposely, did make some pauses, some seconds. I was closing my eyes. I was more deeply connected with the silence, and then I opened my eyes and was continuing reading. So I did also this. Pauses for deeper connection with the silence, to stabilize more this connection, and then reading. The same thing you can do with any activity, like eating. You can, the moment you eat your breakfast, lunch, or meal, whatever, you can use this activity for developing this double attention or awareness. Everything, and the most important thing is intention. Why I do this? What is my intention? And in my experience, I'm 33 years in this inner path. I'm 63, 33 years. I don't know, I don't remember well how this started in 1992, 1993, when I started my inner journey. It was very clear. It was because I was in the agnostic movement, and also I was reading the books of Gurdjieff, Uspensky, who was a disciple of Gurdjieff. The book was titled The Fourth Way, something like this. I don't remember because it have passed many years. Anyway, and in this book, it was very clear and emphasized this double attention, to develop this capacity of double attention. And from that time, my main purpose was how to develop this capacity. Of course, at that time I was not so much skillful, I didn't know many things I know nowadays. I did my best according to the instructions of the teacher we have in my center. Anyway, I did what I could do according to my understanding, knowledge, experience, everything. But after many years being in this inner process, I found different ways to develop this capacity and to use daily activities like eating, walking, reading, watching television as well. For example, I was a tennis player when I was young. So even though I stopped to play tennis, I'd like to watch, now no, but for many years I wanted to watch tennis matches, especially the grand tournaments of Roland Garros, Wimbledon, Australian Open, etc. And I used, because there was a desire, okay, it's a desire, a worldly desire. But although as mechanism it is a conditioning, we can use this conditioning since this desire is not something problematic to watch tennis, it's not something bad in itself, which, for example, to watch porno is something bad in itself. Have many consequences. Watching porno is another thing. Watching tennis, another thing. So watching tennis, it's neutral. But for me, it was a challenge because I was a tennis player and I was attached to Djokovic or to players who is going to win this match, who is plays. I had a pride in me just to have a good foreseeing who is better, who is going to win, all these things. Not just watching, but my ego was engaging in this play. So, always my intention was to take advantage of any worldly activity, first, to maintain double awareness, connection with inner silence, and second, to learn how my conditioning, the mind's conditioning functions in me. To learn, to understand, to know the mechanism of the egoic self. But at the same time, to maintain connection and see how my ego wanted to attract my whole attention and project it on the screen of the TV or computer, and to lose my whole attention and mind in the experience of tennis. This is the challenge. And especially if there is a desire, we enjoy something like tennis, and we identify with I'm good, this is bad, this like this. And I feel pride because I can foresee what will happen after, who is going to win the match. And I feel pride. So there is an emotional engagement. In reality, my ego is projected to the players, and that's why we have likes, dislikes. I like this player, I don't like so much this. I prefer to win this or that. And if he is not winning the match, so I feel a little bit not depressed, but okay, not satisfied, we can say. So I used to use all these experiences for two things: to maintain connection within silence and learn how my ego works. And if the experience, I can say that if I was not capable to maintain this double attention and the experience was so much overwhelming, we can say, I stopped the experience and returned to the inner silence, making mantra or whatever. So we must have the determination when some experience, sensory experience, is neutral in itself, to when we notice that we lose our mind and attention to the experience, to let this experience, and focus on the inner silence, doing mantra or whatever we have as main practice to connect with the inner silence. Of course, spiritual practices are the main ways to develop this double awareness, which has as first objective to maintain connection with the inner silence and deepen into the inner silence. The deeper becomes this connection, the steadier becomes this connection, the easier becomes to maintain this state of witness, you would say witness state or observer state. We don't need to do something special to become the observers or witnesses. What we need to do is to become conscious of the inner silence and the sense I exist and observe what is happening in us. Automatically, we would say, we become the observers. When we maintain connection with inner silence, and the deeper this connection is, the greater is the distance from psychological, mental, emotional expressions. And by observing them attentively, we become the observer. We don't need to have, they say some, I don't know who, but I have heard this. You must to develop this attitude of observer. But practically, what does it mean this? It is this what I say to you now. Maintain this conscious connection or awareness of inner silence, and while maintaining this awareness, observe your thoughts, emotions, impulses, or external objects. The moment we lose this connection, we identify with the experience, whether it's psychological or sensory experience. That's why the key point to have double awareness is to maintain this inner connection with the silence within. And be attentive to what we experience moment by moment, psychologically or in the sensory world. Attentiveness, awareness of the inner silence, attentiveness, which means also observation. And here I wanted to explain what is the difference between observation and witnessing, because you can find these words very frequently in spiritual books, texts, posts, videos. Witness your mind, observe your mind. Is the same thing? No. No. Another thing is witnessing, although they have some common element. Which is the common element between witnessing and observing? It is that we have a distance. We don't identify with what is happening in our psyche and, of course, what is happening in the sensory world. There is a distance. And to have this distance, we must connect consciously with the inner silence and the sense I exist, which are very stable and beyond all content of psyche and external world. So, if there is distance, this is the common ground of witnessing and observing. What is the difference? Witnessing means that I see what arises in me or what passes in front of my eyes, but I don't care. It's like sitting in a cafe. Here in Barcelona, we have very nice weather now, sunny, hot, warm, about 30 degrees. You see, this is very rare, especially June. In June, it's very rare to have so much the weather to be so much warm, 30 degrees. This happens usually during the mid of July and August. But this year we have this opportunity to enjoy sun and warmness during June. So you can sit in a cafe and you enjoy your coffee or tea or ice cream, in this case. And while you enjoy your coffee, you see people to pass in front of your eyes, but we don't give any attention to them. What does it mean here? You are a witness because you see things to happen, but you don't give any attention to them. You don't engage with them. You don't think about them. What is this? What is that? Oh, what a nice, what a bad, what. You don't think about them. And also we don't emotionally, you are engaged. You are just the witness of what is happening without any special interest. You just enjoy your coffee. That's it. This is witnessing. What is observing in this case? That something attracts your attention, a person, and you see how this person walks, what is his hair, his dressing, whatever may be, and you look, watch carefully in order to have a precise knowledge about her or him. This is observation. There is an intention to learn something from it. This is observation. Witnessing is just, I'm here, I see that things come and go, no engagement, no special attention, nothing to learn, nothing to do about this. Observing, consciously, intentionally focus my attention to something, to learn something from it. If it is an emotion, the same happens inwards. We do meditation. Our objective is to remain as deep as possible absorbed in the inner silence, and occasionally some impulse or thoughts arise in us, but we don't care about it. We don't give any special attention. We just witness that this happens without engaging in this, without identifying and say, what is this and why this thought arises now? What is the problem? Why I cannot remain silent, my mind remains silent? We don't say nothing. We are not interesting. Just see that something happens, but you are focused on the inner silence as much as you can according to the circumstances and your capacity. This is witnessing. But observation means that you are doing meditation, for example, again, and arises an emotion. And you say, okay, what is this? What this emotion is? It is fear, it is anger. You observe attentively in order to learn something, to know something, to become more aware of it. First of all, to know through perception, experientially, not through thinking. To know. So you observe carefully what you feel in your body, fear, anger, whatever. This is observation in order to learn. It's intentional and purposeful. There is some objective, some goal. I want to do this or that with this observation. Witnessing is just, I'm aware that things happen, but I don't care about them. I am focused, in this case, in the inner silence. Or I enjoy my coffee. I'm totally focused in enjoying my coffee, and I don't care who passes through my eyes before me. Indifferent. This is witnessing. But if I direct my attention purposely to someone or to something and observe this attentively, this is observation. This is the difference. I think now it's clear. One thing is witnessing, another thing is observing. What is what to say, more important or better, both are valuable, have a value. Other moments we want just to remain as witnesses, and other moments we want to observe carefully what is happening. It depends what we want to do. It depends on us. Both have a part in our practice. For example, you are also tired. You have done a lot of mental work, let's say, and you are tired. So we want just to rest us deeply in the silence and enjoy the silence and have también also a mental emotional rest. So you remain as a witness of your body, of your energy field, of your emotional state, of your mental state. Because just you want to rest. You don't want to make anything or to do anything. Or you want to meditate deeply in the silence. So you are indifferent of what is happening psychologically or in the sensory world. If you want to learn something, the process is the same. To know something well, we need to be attentive and observe this very thing very carefully. Whether it's something psychological or sensory. We need, for example, we need to play something. We need to be very careful how we use the fingers, watch carefully to feel our fingers, attentiveness, observation, to learn something externally. The same applies to the inner world, to learn our emotions, how they work, how we feel. What's the difference between fear and anger? You can say, I know. Oh, you don't know. You know partially. But in inner work, we want to know perfectly, not partially or more or less. We must be very precise. We must know how the egoic self operates through the emotional level, mental level, intellectual level, energetic level, and how all these levels operate all together to satisfy the desire or the attachment of our egoic self. So we must be very careful observers to learn how all this inner machine works. So observation and witnessing, both are important, and we use the one that serves better the very moment we want to do the one or the other. It depends what is our objective, our goal. So, for example, my main practice is repeat a mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, most of all, other mantras as well. So my main objective is to concentrate on the mantra in the inner silence. So whatever comes, I leave it to go. But if it is some tendency, it's different thing. So Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, silence, Om Namah Shivaya. I am in the silence, arises something. What is this something? Just a thought. What I will do about food, what time I have, I need to eat something. Or it's an anger from something that happened, I don't know, or gluttony, or lasciviousness, or fear, or anxiety. What is this different thing? So, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, oh, what is this? So I pay attention to this expression to clarify, first of all, what is this? Is fear, is anger, is dislike, is what is? And then, depending, now there are various possibilities. If I know well what about this, because now after 33 years, I know very well when something arises in me, it's very obvious what is. So I use prayer and mantra to dissolve this energy, eliminate this energy, to burn this energy through the power of mantra and prayer directly. So, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, hop, anger. Welcome. O Divine Mother, O Divine Shakti, I pray to you to dissolve this energy of anger and fill me with peace, love, and light. I'm peace, love, and light. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, etc., etc. So, my first objective is to say Om Namah Shivaya and connect with the inner silence and the peace. The more I can do this. But if something arises, depending on the situation, I give attention, I pay attention to this. And if it is an egoic expression, I use prayer and mantra to dissolve it. If it is something stronger, then I use something, some method to dismantle it, if I say well, dismantle, to uncover its illusion, to realize that this is an illusion, and so that to lose this expression, the fascination and attraction that exists in my mind. So I use a method to make it lose fascination, attraction, seductiveness, how we call this. And then I use again the prayer and the mantra to dissolve the energy. But the main thing here is this. Okay, I do mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, connection with the silence. And thoughts or emotions arise in my psyche. If they are ordinary thoughts, as I said, will go by themselves very easily. And in my case, it's not so frequent to come in my mind this kind of thoughts. I live a very well-organized life, little things to do, so there are not so much thinking about supermarket, these practical things, very little. So there is no disturbance. But there are things related to pleasure, to anger, to pride, that there are triggers that make these emotional reactions happen, and this emotional reaction creates some kind of thinking in my mind. So, in this case, first of all, and the most important, is to avoid lose ourselves in the experience of emotion and thought and thinking. To avoid this, we use some technique, we would say, so that to avoid this identification. The best way for, according to my experience, is to use how we say this, inquisitive question, inquiry question. For example, some thoughts arise. To whom these thoughts arise? To me. And I come in the awareness of this sense of me, which is the illusory identity that I am this me, body me, that I perceive, I do the mantra, I do this or that. And then, what is the source of this me? And I go deeper in me, in the inner silence. Of course, to do this successfully, we must practice it as a main practice for some time. So to be very familiar with this process of questioning whatever arises in our mind, thoughts, emotions, imagination. To whom this anger arises? To whom this anger arises? To me. What is the source of this me? And go deeper in the silence. With this process, we create a shock of attention or consciousness. We become more attentive, and this prevents us from losing ourselves in the experience of emotion or thinking, and to return to the silence. But you can say, but you do the mantra. Why to do this? Because it gives an extra shock of attentiveness and consciousness. That's why. And it works perfectly. So, whenever we do the mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, we are in the silence. Always this. And we are also aware of what is arising. So the moment we notice something to arise in us, to whom this arises, to me, what is the source of me, and go deeper in the silence. We remain a little bit there, and we begin to repeat the mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Another way is to say, we say Om Namah Shivaya, to say the mantra Om, which is also mantra, but mantra Om is very efficient to create space in the mind and help facilitate the connection with the inner silence. Just saying Om. That's why it's one of the strongest or best mantras for meditation. Om. It's very simple. Om Namah Shivaya is good, of course. And it's better to repeat Om Namah Shivaya than Om during the day. For meditation, you can do both, Om Namah Shivaya or Om. But during the day, it's easier for the mind to repeat a mantra like Om Namah Shivaya. And we can use the Om specifically when something attracts our attention, to use it to create space in the mind and connect with the inner silence. This is the second way. And the third way is to use our body, physical experience, which is solid and doesn't change. Okay, the body changes, of course, but in this very moment, it remains as it is. So, some thinking, thoughts, emotion attracts our attention. We ground our attention awareness to the body consciously by saying, can I feel my body? Can I feel plenty or fully my body? And just we feel the body. So we disconnect from mind, mental, emotional reaction. We connect with the body. Then we remain there for some time, and then we ask, can I feel that I exist? To connect with this sense, I exist, or I am, or presence. Can I feel I exist? Now, I tell you this to you, but I practice it now. I speak to you, and I see that my attention goes to the speaking, talking, and to the screen of my mobile. So, can I feel my body? Can I feel that I exist? And then, of course, we have to practice this also as a independent practice from this. Every method we want to develop, we must practice it as a separate practice. Om, the question, to whom this arises, all this process, and this bodily awareness, body awareness, I am awareness, to connect with the silence as separate practices. And then we can use them as means to avoid identification and connect with the inner silence and return our attention in our center, our heart. What means heart? Not emotion. Deeper place within ourselves. So, we have a main method, means, to maintain self-awareness. What means self-awareness? Aware of the inner silence. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. I'm aware of the inner silence. Something arises. Okay, if it's something very subtle, we can continue repeating Om Namah Shivaya and maintain connection with the inner silence. But if it is a little bit stronger, we could say, or more attractive, in order to avoid identification or engagement with this, we say, to whom this arises, arises to me, what is the source of this me? And go inside to the inner silence. We remain there. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Or you can use body awareness, or use the mantra Om to connect with inner silence. We remain there for a while, and then Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And of course, you must practice Om Namah Shivaya as a separate practice, using mala or whatever, 30 minutes, 1 hour, sitting repetition of mantra, morning, evening, during the day, small pauses, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 5, 10 minutes, during eating, during walking, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. So, by maintaining this connection with the inner silence and the sense I am, and by being aware of the external reality, whether it is psychological reality, sensory reality, we have double awareness. The important thing is to give more importance to the inner silence, because if you give more importance to the experience, you will easily identify with the experience. And in fact, if it is not something important, because you can cut your head, okay, there are activities we must be very attentive and careful. Okay, even in these cases, we can be connected with the inner silence. I speak always from experience, not from my mind. Even in these cases, when you are very attentive to cut something with the knife, you can maintain this awareness, not so deep, of course, but you are conscious, aware that you do this, and you are here that you do this. I'm aware that I do this. Even when you read a book, you can maintain this awareness, as I said before, sometime before. And you can create pauses, 1 minute, 30 seconds pauses, to remain a little bit more totally in the silence, and then continue your activity. This, we could say, so we have during the day greater pauses of 3, 5, 10 minutes. We pause everything we do, any activity, we leave any activity aside, and we focus on the mantra, on the inner silence, as a small practice, sitting practice. But while we do any activity, eating, we eat, we can a little bit to remain some seconds at least in silence. I mean, no activity and in connection with the silence. We can continue eating, but without losing connection with the inner silence. So we create small pauses of 2, 3, 5 seconds to reconnect deeper, more deeply with the silence, and then continue the activity. And this, little by little, will become a habit. All capacities, spiritual capacities, higher capacities, are developed in the same way we develop any other capacity in life. We need repetition and regularity, and steadfastness. Steadfastness, to remain steady to this process, not to give up. Although we don't apply some method always perfectly or efficiently, we continue our practice and we observe what is happening, what is the problem, what is that prevents me from having the result I want. Always we do what we do with attention, so that to give feedback to ourselves. We don't repeat something mechanically. We do anything with attention, and through attentiveness and observation, we learn how we do this. And if we do something that gives some better result, we are aware of it, so we tend to repeat this very thing so that to improve our capacity, skillfulness, whatever it may be. So there is doing and observation of what we do, and we learn what we do, we have a feedback so that to make improvements. Because if we do something mechanically, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Okay, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, what happens? Om Namah Shivaya. What happens if I say Om Namah Shivaya rapidly? Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. What happens if I say Om Namah Shivaya sweetly? Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. What happens if I say the Om Namah Shivaya with a melody? Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah. If you are not attentive, you do not learn anything. We just enjoy the time, but it's not enough, according to my experience. Anything we do, we must be very attentive to learn from this experience. To learn what is experience, I mean, either to learn what emotion, impulse have expressed in me, to learn it, to know well what is this and how I can get rid of it. When I do a practice, a method, to learn how I do this, if I do this in a certain way, what is the result? If I do the same thing in another way, what is the result? And what is better for me to do? For example, I found for me, repeat the mantra during the whole day with a melody. It's better for me just to repeat Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. I do it. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. I find this way better for me. I don't say that it's good for you as well or equally good for you. You have to find your own way. But in order to find your own way, what is better for you, you must do things with attention and with carefulness, so that to learn. I do this. If I do this in this way, what's the result? And don't be in a hurry to get conclusions, because you can make mistakes if you are very impatient. You have to observe one thing again and again so that to come in conclusion that will be real or how to say, not real, but it's the correct conclusion, the right conclusion. Don't be in a hurry. Do, be attentive, observe, and learn, and make adjustments or adapt the way you do something according to your experience, understanding, discernment, clarity. And this is the way to improve your practice. Not just practice mechanically. Okay, my teacher said I have to practice repetition of mantra. Okay, but how you repeat the mantra? There are many ways to repeat the mantra. And with what purpose you repeat the mantra? Okay, there are different ways, and for what purpose you repeat the mantra? To develop devotion, to create this double awareness, to use the sound of mantra to purify your mind and heart. For what reason you repeat the mantra? To create the habit? Okay, some of them can happen at the same time. But our first main intention develops the capacity we want to develop through the repetition of mantra. What I want to say is this simple thing. If my intention is to develop double awareness, so I do the mantra, I repeat the mantra, but my intention is not to enhance devotion, but to remember, maintain awareness of the inner silence, which makes this repetition a different thing than to concentrate in the heart place chakra and Om Namah Shivaya with the intention to express my love and devotion to the divine. Both are valuable and beautiful and efficient. But the point is, what I want to develop, what is my need also. For example, in my case, in the beginning, when I started to repeat mantras, mostly I was focused on the sound to repeat the mantra very clearly, one. With devotion, second. Sometimes I was focusing on the sound of mantra. Some other times I was focusing in the heart. I said the mantra with devotion, with love. Both was effective, and each way of making the repetition had some different results. So it's not this is good and this is bad. All is good if we use them consciously for some reason, for some objective. And for me, after some years of repetition of mantras, became very careful, very clear that most of the time, the most important thing was to use the mantra to maintain and deepen in the inner silence. There are different ways also to repeat the mantra to connect with the inner silence. For example, we can say the mantra very in a subtle way and make pauses between each repetition. Om Namah Shivaya. And remain, you don't repeat the mantra immediately. You stay a little bit in silence. You listen to the silence. Om Namah Shivaya. Listen to the silence. Other times that my mind was very agitated and was disturbed, I was repeating the mantra without a break. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, because my mind was very restless. So in order to not give the mind to create thoughts, because if I was stopping even for a second, the mind was wanted to think about something. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. It's another way. So mantras are means, we can say weapon, but we can use it in a different ways. Another way to use the mantra is to use the mantra for eliminating the anger energy, for example. How we do this? Anger arises in me. In order to avoid identification, we say, to whom this anger arises? To me. Disconnect from anger for a while. What is the source of me? The silence. Go to the silence. And from this connection, I feel the anger. It's a different thing because I already have restored a deeper connection. Of course, if anger is very strong, it's a different thing. I speak about a normal expression of anger, not a very strong expression of anger. So I connect more deeply in the silence. I'm aware of the anger and I use the mantra like this. I say the mantra with power, we could say, and I give importance to the sound. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. I like this, but mentally. Of course, we can say it loudly, but I think mentally works better. But you can also have your own experience. You can do this way, that way, and find what is better for you. But mentally for me works well. But I do it now loudly for you to listen to me. So connecting with the inner silence, here I feel the anger. And I say the mantra with forcefully, we could say, in this way. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om. And I feel this vibration of the mantra to permeate this anger energy. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. I deepen in the silence, I deepen in the silence. I say forcefully the mantra, and I feel this mantra to permeate the whole energy of the anger in this case, and the power of mantra, along with the power of silence, dissolve, burn this energy. Of course, if it's so strong, the expression is different thing, but I speak about a subtle expression of anger or other tendency, like, or not so subtle, we could say medium expression. What is medium? Okay, from climax 1 to 10. 10 is very strong. 0 is 0. Okay, to 2, 3 volume or 4, we can easily use the mantra to dissolve this energy. If it is 5, 7, we have to do something else also. But it's not time to explain all these things. So we can do this mantra this way. So the mantra, it can be used for meditation, for purification, for elimination, for devotion. It's the same mantra, but the way we do the mantra gives us different results. However, other benefits are also, how to say, happen. What I want to say is, when I repeat the mantra for devotion, for devotional reasons, we say enjoy the mantra, enjoy the love for the divine, purification also happens. I don't need to do the mantra specifically for purification. By doing the mantra for devotion, purification happens. By doing the mantra to connect with the inner silence, purification happens. Sattva increases. So we could say side effects. They are not side effects, but other effects more than the main intention we use the mantra. So we have an intention to use the mantra for a specific goal, but at the same mantra, the mantra works on other levels, for purification, for increasing sattva, for increasing devotion. Even though we say the mantra focusing on the sound, somehow also devotion, how to say, it is there, present devotion, even though we focus mostly on the sound. But to develop devotion, we must repeat the mantra with a devotional way, chanting mantras, kirtans, etc. So here I finish this presentation, in which I explain that we must develop double awareness or attention. Attention is the reflection of pure consciousness in the mind. To develop double attention or awareness means to maintain awareness of the inner silence and the sense I exist, and at the same time to be aware of the psychological expressions and sensory experiences. And the objective is not to lose ourselves, not identify with the experiences, whether it's are psychological or sensory experiences. To maintain always this connection with the inner silence. To develop this capacity, we do sitting meditations, using a mantra or any other method of meditation, but using other activities like reading spiritual books, watching spiritual videos, eating, bathing, walking. They are great opportunities to develop this connection with inner silence and maintain double awareness. That means to observe or to witness what is happening without losing myself in the experience. I explained also the difference between witnessing and observing. There are two different things, although they have a common thing. We do not identify ourselves with experience. However, observing is a dynamic and purposeful observation to learn something, to know something. Witnessing, we just remain indifferent of what appears in our awareness, and we give attention to the awareness itself. Then I explained that in order to maintain awareness of silence, the better way is to repeat a mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And when something attracts our attention outwards, to use our body awareness and the sense I exist to ground our attention, to withdraw our attention from mind and emotion, to ground it on body sensation, to the sense I am, and from there to inner silence. Or to use the mantra Om, Om, to get in the inner silence, or to use the inquiry way, to whom this thought arises, to whom this emotion arises, to me, what is the source of me, and we go in the center of our existence where silence exists. Remain there for a while, and then we continue repeating the mantra and maintaining the connection with the inner silence. And we must be determined, sincere, regular in our practice to do this a habit until it will become a very strong habit. That means to maintain awareness of the silence and at the same time be aware of what is happening within and without losing ourselves in the experience, psychological or sensorial. And also I told you that we can use the mantra in different ways to develop devotion or to purify or to develop the capacity to maintain connection with inner silence or whatever. However, the mantra works at the same time with the purification, with the increasing of sattva, with the increasing of devotion, independently our main intention to repeat the mantra. It is a very, for me, the most powerful means or method for practice, repeating mantras. We can be very skillful on repetition of the mantras, and we can get everything through the repetition of the mantras. Purification, elimination, self-awareness, self-realization. Of course, we need to develop discernment, dispassion, clarity, concentration, acceptance, patience, resilience, self-confidence, faith to ourselves. I can do it. I will end this presentation with this. Have faith to yourself and to divinity. I want to do it. I can do it. I will do it. I will never give up in this effort. I will give my best until my last breath. This is the message. I will give my best until the last breath. Om Namah Shivaya, until the last breath. Connection with inner silence, until the last breath. Nothing can move me from this. Independently the results. Although the results are not what I wanted to be, they are not so glorious, I will I will keep going, practicing again and again and again. If you have this determination, the result will come. It is possible to be a delay, but will come. But also, as I said before, I forgot to say that you have to be attentive, to practice attentively, so that to learn the way you practice and to learn how you will practice the mantra. The mantra is very simple to repeat it, but there is a very subtle skillfulness, so that the result it will be much better. Much better to say like this. You have greater results if you have quality the way you do the mantra. Quantity and quality go together. We need quantity, but we need also quality. And quality comes from the quantity and attention, to be very careful of what we do, how we do, what the result. If I change this, what the result? If I do it another way, what the result? What is better for me? What is better in these circumstances, or what is better in other circumstances? What works here and what works there? This is one of the most important things. Because we may think that if I do the mantra, okay, everything will happen by themselves. No. We are the practitioners. The mantra are the means. They have power, of course. But this power to be expressed, manifested, it is needed us to do it with concentration, with devotion, attentively, make adjustments, so that the mantra will become, we will apply the mantra in a better and better way. This is what I wanted to share with you. I wish you peace, love, and light. I wish you to realize your true self in this very life. And I remind you, remember always that you have always only this very moment. All you have, all we have, is this very moment. And the important thing is how we live this very moment. Consciously or unconsciously. Losing ourselves in the experience or maintaining this double awareness. Awareness of the inner silence and sense I exist, and awareness of what is happening within and without. This is the challenging of every moment. The challenge. We have this challenge. Only this challenge, only this moment. That's why focus on doing your best in this very moment. Be attentive here and now. Do your best here and now. What is the best way to live? Repeating a mantra in conscious awareness of the inner silence and remaining as the open space that everything arises, and become like witnesses or observers, depending. But all this happens in these very moments. All this is happening in this very moment. This is your life, this very moment. Enjoy your divine essence this very moment. You cannot experience your divine essence any other moment. Here and now, which is a timeless now. It's not a now in the time. We say now, but it's not now in the sense past, now, future. This now is in fact this silent space of awareness beyond time. So it's a matter of focusing. Focus mostly in your inner silence. And do your best in relation to outer activities. And do your best, most of all, to avoid any kind of identification with the psychological self. Namaste.